Yo, what's going up, y'all? John here. I'm just gonna test my voice, test my sound real quick, making sure everything's alright. Wanted to come on today, just share some thoughts. Now, a lot of this stuff that I will be sharing is more for me, just lessons for myself. So later on, I can just pick up this audio and just remind me of these lessons. Long story short, I was on Twitter a couple of months ago, and somebody sent me a document, and this document was extremely long. It was thousands and thousands of pages of text, and I went through the whole thing. But thankfully, we have something called ChatGPT. ChatGPT, they will help you get all this file information organized. You guys understand? So you have a lot of files, you can organize these files. And these are lessons from the dark occult. You can call them the parasitic elite. You can call them whatever you want. I just want to go through these lessons one by one and just share with you what was in that document. So the first lesson is, there is no stinking money. There is only power and influence. I'm going to say that again. The first lesson is, there is no stinking money. There is only power and influence. What does this mean? Money is just a control token. True wealth is positioning, access, and subconscious influence. The masses chase money. They design the system. So recognize that the whole system, they want you to chase money all the time. I don't care if it's gambling addiction, or if you are going to certain clubs, they're always throwing that cash, right? Certain clubs that you go to. So in the back of your mind, you've been taught to chase that money. You're not really chasing control. You're not chasing systems. Another way you can think about it is, all right, they're telling you to go to Monaco. Monaco is very, very small. It's about the size of Central Park in New York City. But every single year, they're bringing in about 10 billion in GDP. So over there, people are developing a gambling addiction and going to these casinos. But at the same time, Monaco is protecting their own citizens. They don't even allow them to go to the casinos because they don't want them to develop a gambling addiction. So you go in there with mentality of going after cash, right? They're stacking assets on top of assets. They got the tourism coming in, people renting expensive cars, fine dining. Of course, you're not going to win against the house in the casinos. But they don't just have that cash sitting there doing nothing. They're rebuilding back into their infrastructure. What else are they doing? They're buying more stock. They're buying more real estate. They're having more control. That's how the rich and powerful think. They don't chase after cash. They chase after assets. They go after control, positioning, subconscious influence. All right. What else do they say? Lesson number 2, own nothing, control everything. Own nothing, control everything. What does that mean? Assets are hidden behind trusts, proxies, or corporations. Real power lies in invisible ownership with no liability. Real power lies in invisible ownership with no liability. Rich people, they never put things under their name. They don't have assets under their own personal name. It's all under a big family trust that people can't even touch. So you guys want to learn more about different things such as family trusts, proxies, and corporations that you can install. Next, what else do they have? This is the third lesson. Never let a good crisis go to waste. The third lesson is, never let a good crisis go to waste. What do they mean? They want to create chaos or use it to introduce new control mechanisms. Panic gives cover for transformation that you don't particularly want, but they're going to install it because you're in that state of fear. Fourth lesson, what do they say? People will demand their own enslavement if you scare them enough. One of the most effective tools that they have in their tool belt is fear. fear is the most efficient form of control. It triggers people to accept surveillance, censorship, and economic leashes willingly. So at a very early age, there's always that very, very strong dose of fear installed in all different verticals of your life. Fear of your health, fear of missing out, relationships, money, all these different things. But they want to put that fear in you so it is an automatic grab. Once you're in that state of fear, you're just looking for some guidance. Wish that guidance would be provided. Next, what do they say? They say, give them bread and circus. Give them bread and circuses. All right, so what are they trying to do? They want to feed the masses with cheap dopamine and distractions that keeps them from seeking truth or power. Right? So many people, they are stuck with their video games, watching live streaming, or they're just watching sports all the time. They know about sports statistics better than anything else. But that's what they're addicted to. So they're never going to be in power in their life. And that's what the dark occult wants to keep the masses under. All right, what else do they say? They say a lot of different things. All right. They're always focused on building generational wealth, not momentary riches. Build generational wealth, not momentary riches. What do they mean? Cash is temporary. Influence, equity, and intergenerational trust vehicles are permanent. Cash is temporary. Influence, equity, and intergenerational trust vehicles are permanent. That's what they focus on. Right? So these are different tools, different financial tools we need to educate ourselves on, right? Instead of just having that cash mentality, you might be thinking, hey, what would I can do to turn this cash into an asset? Could be a business that you buy, a business that you start, or you are buying stock, right? You're buying stock and collecting dividends. That's another way, making your money work for you. Yo, what's up, coach? And what else do they do? Maybe in the crypto space, they call it a staking, right? So you buy cryptocurrencies, but there's some staking mechanism that is involved. That is almost like collecting dividends with stock. Other people, they invest different things. I have pretty good internet here, so hopefully this works this time. I'm going to invite you, see if you want to come on. Yo, what's going on, coach?
How's it going, man?
Yo, where are you right now? Are you outside or are you back home?
I'm outside. I'm outside.
Wow, what's
Yeah,
happening, y'all?
man.
So good to see you. My
Not much,
goodness.
man. Everything good.
Everything
I just wanna,
good.
yeah, I want you to keep going with that advice. I'm listening, man.
Oh, today I was just sharing some information I came across the internet. Somebody shared with me this very long dark document. It was probably about 1,000, 2,000 pages. But now with ChatGPT, you can just throw it up there and it's going to give you the summary. And apparently, a Rothschild was on this Reddit forum. He's going back and forth, just everyday people,
Mm.
and it's telling them these are some of the control mechanisms that you're not even aware of right now. I'm just sharing it with you. And of course, a lot of these you already know because you're a coach. You've been in this for a very, very long time. So there isn't that much I can coach you with.
No, 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 no. We can always learn. We can always learn. You know.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things that they talk about is there is no stinking money. There's only power and influence.
Mm.
That's what they focus on. But the world will teach you, you need to chase after that cash. You go to the club, throwing up dollar
Mm.
bills, right?
Right.
Then that's what they instill. But behind the scenes, they're stacking assets. They're stacking real estate. They're stacking stocks. They're having that money work for them. Warren Buffett, He brought in over $500 million with dividends with Coca-Cola alone,
Mm.
with that one stock. They're getting that Coca-Cola to work for him. He's sleeping. All these other people, they're working because he has all these shares behind him. And that's what makes him powerful. And we need to
Right.
learn about these mechanisms that work. And, just having more of a rounded education and start diving deep into, all right, money is just a control token. True wealth is positioning, access, and subconscious
Mm.
influence. That's where they're
Mm.
really focused on, not just the mechanisms and finance itself, but all right, I need to somehow convince you through subconscious influence, you need to go after cash.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
chase that
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah.
So there's so many great lessons that they talk about. Another thing that is own nothing, control everything. So nothing is under their own personal name. They establish family trusts. So people like Donald Trump, he could go bankrupt in his businesses 5, 6, 7 times. Nobody cares because he can always bring another deal and the bank is going to lend regardless because it's like, okay, there's going to be good deal flow because once again, money isn't real. They
Mm.
don't care.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Everything can be written off, right? It's just some numbers they can just delete off of their score sheets. But Donald Trump never declared a personal bankruptcy. It's not
Mm.
possible because everything's behind his family trust.
Right.
Everything is shielded from all this mess. So nothing is tied to his personal assets.
Mm.
So there's so
Yeah.
many great key takeaways from these documents. One of them, another one is create both sides of the argument, which is taking place
Yeah.
again in the
Yeah.
news. Control the language, control the people, double speak. What else do they have? It's not about truth, it's about perception. Whoever
Yeah.
controls the narrative controls the outcome. Truth can be silenced, perception can be manufactured at any time, right? So I want to ask Coach, man, Coach, what you been thinking about? Because you always have amazing thoughts. You always have no. When we have conversation, you guys don't know about Coach. When I go to Taipei and then we sit down, okay, it's a sit down, and then we have conversations for hours till early morning, hours about a whole bunch of different things. It's
Mm.
2025. I just want to anything, coach, you want to share with the world, and I'll probably go back to this recording multiple times because you always have something that's cooking. So I'll let you have the floor, coach.
No, man. I think like that. Those points you brought up, man, are super, super important. This is like it's kind of like base knowledge we need to know to go
Hmm.
forward from here.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like if we need to understand how the world works today.
Hmm.
You know, and it's not what we think. It's like we think we're on top of things. We think we're ahead of the curve, but there are many people who are way ahead, way
Mm.
further ahead than us.
Hmm.
And the reality of how things actually work is not what you see and not
Mm.
what you know right
Mm.
now. So when you get this kind of knowledge, it's important to take it on board and then figure out, like you're saying, like what can you do to
Mm.
stay ahead of the curve, but
Hmm.
also at the same time, which I feel is really important and part of like, I mean, every day we're learning, man. So, recently I've been kind of taking on some new stuff, and
Hmm.
we have to make sure that we're doing things in the right, you know.
Mm. Hmm.
We tend to think like, okay, now I have this information. How can I get around it? How can I, stay ahead of the curve? And
Hmm.
sometimes, often, we don't think about, is the method or path that we're choosing the right method or path?
Hmm.
Is it staying on the right path? Are we doing the right thing?
And we're talking about right thing. Is it an alignment with natural law? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Alignment with natural law. Um, and, and very interestingly enough, I this past week I've been kind of rereading a book by Richard W. Wetherill, which
Oh,
is
I don't know
called,
about this book. I want to write it
yeah,
down. Richard
it's
W.
Richard W. Wetherill.
What is the title of the book?
The title is called Might is Right.
Wow. Okay. Might is right.
And as as kind of often happen with me, like I will read a book one time and I'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of take it in,
Mm-hmm.
and then I might go back to it at a later time, and it comes with different, a different view, a different meaning for where I am at that stage. And this book recently really like um hit me kind of hard because
Mm-hmm.
he talks about uh how to get success, but how to do it in line with natural law.
Wow. But
And
that book cover is controversial as hell.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, I don't know if at his time of writing it, it must have been controversial, but I think also in our time, it's even more so controversial.
Well, that's how
You know?
the Satanic runs. The Satanic runs
Yeah,
on that principle. I mean, I
yeah,
haven't read the book, so I can't judge the book by its cover. I think he got that cover in there to get the pull for people to pick up that
yeah,
book. But how he's going to lay it out, because I know you can't just brute force your way,
yeah,
right? That you can't just exact violence on people and be like, well, I blew them apart. That's why I'm right.
right,
And that's the reason why the world is messed up the way that it is, because many people, they've been entrenched in that thought process. They think that,
right,
well, if I have the firepower, I'm going to make my way. If there is no way, you
yeah.
know.
And I think he, as you mentioned, I think he chose that title, you know, exactly because it's not really what you think. When we hear might is right now, we think about like what you're talking about, which is using my power to have
Hmm.
influence to do what these Satanists and what these globalists and whoever they're doing, right? They're
Hmm.
trying to enact.
Hmm.
But he uses that sentence in the way of talking about natural law.
Hmm.
Like the power is in doing the right thing. The
Hmm.
power is in doing, um, in making right decisions, uh, and doing right decisions for you and for the greater good.
Hmm.
And when I read the book, knowing natural law and knowing Mark Passio and knowing, all these other people that I've read and to understand natural law and really how it works, it blew me away because I was like, wow, this guy has broken it down into like a science.
Wow.
It's like a step-by-step guide
Hmm.
how you should take your decisions,
Hmm.
how you should decide, what you're gonna do, when you're gonna do it, uh, different all the decisions we need to make every day for our lives, and especially in this time, like what am I gonna do? What am I gonna invest in? What am I going to, where am I gonna put my money? How am I gonna earn my money?
Hmm.
How am I gonna have quote unquote success?
Hmm.
But do it according to natural law.
Hmm.
And the man lays it out like it's amazing.
I'll have to
I mean,
check out this book. What an
yeah,
interesting synchronicities, because this is a topic I was thinking about the last couple of days. We talked about power, right?
right.
And how do you define power? Because if you look at physics, it will just tell you, well, power is work over time.
Mm,
Work over time. How much work can you get done in the shortest amount of time? That's how you know how much power you have. Work is in the numerator, time is in the denominator.
yeah.
How do you define work? What is the displacement of an object from point A to point B? Let's just say a box, for
Mm,
example,
mm,
with the application of force. So I have to use force to move that object from point A to point B.
mm,
If I have more force, I get more work done, right? And that's how you can create power in joules, Joules. That's
yeah.
the metric that they use. But when we're talking about power in the geopolitical sense, this is where it gets kind of crazy, because all these leaders, they've convinced the masses that we're up here, you're down here, you're not important. You put on that
Yeah.
uniform and you go to the battlefield, and I'm just sitting there in the White House. I'm in the Kremlin. I don't
Mm,
care what city I'm eating steak. you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've convinced you, and that power is so dangerous because they don't have to use any force of themselves. They don't
Yep.
have to lift any object from point A to point B.
Yep.
They just have to sign a piece of paper and be like, you guys are going to the trenches.
Yeah.
I don't care how cold it is in the winter. You might get frostbitten. You're going to lose your fingers, but you're going to be
Yeah.
out there, boy.
Yep.
Another way how I think about power is the internal state. And I've been shifting this around because before I was trying to force my information upon people. Why aren't
Mm.
people listening to me?
Mm.
I'm coming up here telling y'all what's going on, but it's not really resonating with the audience, even though what I'm sharing to the best of my ability, I believe is very, very close to the reality that we're facing right now. But the energy behind it was incorrect. It's almost like I need to project in a certain way from a place of true power. That power is really inwards. Where is the state of my subconscious mind? Okay, what is
Yes.
that blueprint within? Because if that is not sitting well within me, as long as I'm projecting and be like, why aren't these people listening to me? I'm still somehow trying to pull that
Mm.
in instead of just saying, here I am. I'm just like this light, right? And if you want to share and learn from this information, here it is, right? But I'm
Yeah.
not going to force my way of thinking upon you. And I think that is also a place of power influence because you see how the dark occult they always use, you know, the aura of mystery. They use
Yeah.
seduction, they use a lot of different tools. So people are always wondering, they're putting Easter eggs in videos, music videos. So when they go to the concert and be like, well, Taylor Swift put this Easter egg in this video,
Yeah.
there's now I have to find her because that's
Yeah.
how we can get that special photo session with her.
Yeah.
I'm like, we need to use the same type of techniques. It's like to kind of draw people to us, you know? And I think there's going to be some shifts taking place. It's like, I think the message is still the same, but how I go about it moving forward must be different. Does that kind of resonate with what you've been learning from Richard with the Might is Right? Kind of like what's taking place within you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely that like even this past week, in conversation with my wife, who is
Hmm.
also on her heights, like when they say your wife is supposed to raise you up, man, that's the truth. You know what
Ooh,
I mean? As a man to a man,
w-
that's the truth.
wow, that's
You know?
strong. That's a strong statement right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I
Not a
mean,
lot of men will say that.
no, no. You have to give respect where respect is due. You know what I mean?
Yo,
And that's the truth. But the conversation that we had is about value. You
mm,
know,
mm,
and and she mentioned to me from her observation that when she sees people who are successful, they carry themselves. They go about their work as if it's very easy, as if
mm,
they deserve this success. They already walk into the room and it's like they deserve this success, so they're gonna get what they
mm,
want. And
mm,
this comes from them understanding their value.
mm,
Now it can have
mm,
a whole. You can go into the back room information, like about their family, about their upbringing, about all of this. That all plays an important part. But
mm.
joining it to what you're saying, which is when you approach a situation with knowing that you already have the value, not trying to convince anybody, when it's already internally part of you,
Mm,
and you
mm,
put that into a room, you are influencing people not by the words that come out of your mouth, but
mm.
by the simple way you walk into the room. You know what I
That's right.
mean? And
That's
this
right.
and this as a coach, I have had the experience. So when she mentioned this to me, I was like, man, she's absolutely correct.
Mm,
And this is
mm,
what you're talking about, like to approach it differently. I don't need to, when I walk to a team, I don't need to say anything. I just need to walk up to the team and stand in front of them, and they will know coach is serious. You
that's
know what I mean?
right. The energy
And
speaks.
yeah, and this is also because, bringing it back to value, in that realm, in that in that you know in that situation, I'm the coach. I have a lot of experience coaching.
That's
I know what I
right.
can do. I'm confident about my ability. I know what I know. I know what I can do. I'm confident about it. What do I have any doubt for? I don't.
That's right. It's
So
lock. It's on lock. You know, that
yeah,
basically.
exactly. It's on lock. So when I walk into a room, people know I'm a coach. You know, people know that I have something to give, and then that's what bring them to
Mm.
me. Because
Uh,
sorry, I was
no, you're
always
doing
told
great.
um, don't tell anybody anything until they ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't mean that they need to even verbally ask for it. People ask for things in non-verbal ways also.
Right. That's true. Yeah, you have to be able to pick up
Right,
those nonverbal cues.
right. So once you get your internal right, once you understand your value, you're confident about what you're doing, you know that this knowledge you have to share is important and you deliver it in this way, I feel like people will naturally start coming to you. Once they
Mm-hmm.
get once they get are able to find you, are able to locate you, once they hear you speak, there'll be something to catch them,
Mm.
you know.
I
And
true. I totally agree. I think Dorian speaking about this subconscious blueprint these successful people have. They walk
yeah,
into the room. They expect first class service, for
yeah,
example, because that's
yeah,
all they experienced when they were young.
yeah,
So, but us, we haven't had that when we were growing up, right?
yeah,
So our vibration, it's almost like when we step into a five-star situation, right? It's almost like we cower away from it consciously. And that is a vibration. That is by itself an energy that gets broadcasted,
yeah.
because there's somehow an energy mismatch. And that's something I'm really diving deep into. I've been doing a lot of meditations daily,
Mm,
and I'm very, very focused on what type of meditation that I'm doing. And I'm focused on ones that can really shift the subconscious mind, because so many things out there, personal development, they're focused on, hey, you got to have positive thinking. You got to have a positive mental attitude. Those are so important, but you can't just have it come from their conscious mind.
mm,
You need to have it come from so deep within, just like when you walk in front of those players, when you're coaching, right? It's like, hey, coach is going to say something important. Everybody shut up. He's not going to
yeah,
shout. He's not going to pick up no microphone and be like, everybody be
yeah,
quiet. you know?
yeah. No, no, that can't work. That can't work. I mean, it's really, I mean, so many things, man. When, like, you talk about meditation, when you start to dig deep,
Mm,
to change your subconscious mind and
mm,
to change the way you do things and the way you think,
hmm.
it takes digging deep, man.
It
It takes
does.
doing that shadow work,
Mm.
and the answers are there. You know, the
How would you
answers are
define shadow work? How would you define shadow work? And how would you identify shadow work?
there. Boy, you want to go deep? You want to take me in the deep water now? You want to take me in the deep water?
It's gonna
um,
get deep.
yeah. I mean, I would say the search for self,
Mm,
the search for capital S self,
okay.
you know, and this requires, I think the methods of shadow work are many.
Mm,
Different cultures have different methods. You can talk about mirror work, you can talk about contemplative meditation, you can talk about, transcendental meditation, you can talk
hmm.
about ayahuasca, you can talk about, I mean, there are
Mm,
many,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but in the end of things is that, you know, you're looking for that capital F self,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
resides inside of
That's
you.
right.
And and this needs work,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
This needs time and it needs effort. And oh wait, my dog is playing.
Yeah, Naya.
Yeah, that's okay.
You have the best dog. I'm so serious. I was
Yeah.
just in this hotel. There were these golden retrievers. They
Oh
were
yeah.
so out of pocket. You know, these owners
Oh
did
wow.
not know how to deal with their dogs. I'm like, listen,
Wow.
you guys are not in a good place. Because I was like, are these dogs gonna bite me? You know what I'm saying? Because they were not like barking like in a nice way. It was like aggressively kind of like, yo. And I was even looking at them, and their owners couldn't. Oh, there she is. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Naya is a star now. I'm kind of
Nice a
jealous.
star. Yeah.
You know, she got that great little advertisement for the vegan
Oh
restaurant.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
is on point,
Yeah,
you
man.
know? And she's like she got the dog menu.
Yeah. The dog
Who
hand
made that?
ringing
Did
the
Dorian
bell.
make that?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
I
shadow
think
work.
yeah, shadow work. I think you need to dig whatever the method is, man. You need to dig deep, and
Oh yeah.
I think that the answers come up about where you're weak, where you
Mm,
need to improve,
mm-hmm,
and and you can go and find the root causes of things, which is where you need to go.
mm,
Why I'm like this, why I think like this, why I did like this,
mm,
and these when you go down there and you get down to the root causes, then you can start to people say heal or fix
mm-hmm,
or redirect your actions.
mm-hmm,
Fix
mm-hmm.
fix things that are wrong, and these can help to set you on the right path to where you can start to change how you see yourself.
Yeah, absolutely will. I'll share with you some information later on in text. I'm not going to mention them here on this
Right.
call, but they've been very, very profound. I was in touch with this one methodology years ago, and just recently it just popped up, back in my brain. I was like, wow, I did this one session with this one guy, and I had tremendous breakthrough
Mm,
because we may have some disappointments in the past. It could be with people, events, circumstances, whatever. And then in the back of our mind, we are thinking about that. We are rehearsing that
yeah.
interaction, right? So it's like this thing happened, and then sometimes you're just driving or you're on your motorcycle in the subway, but you're still thinking about that. So you know that's taking away your energy, taking away
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And coming back to what I've been learning the last couple of weeks, I'm like, I think the universe has been guiding me on this direction. Even this call today, no, I don't
Mm,
think it's by accident. The topics that we're talking about, it's very, very, very much in alignment because, as you know, the subconscious mind, it really locks that in. So for example, when I was a teenager, I had a six-pack abs. So in my mind, I always had a six-pack abs.
mm.
When I see in the mirror, I don't have six-pack abs, I get really pissed off. I'm like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
as you know, when you get into your 30s and 20s and 30s, your body begins to shift
Yeah.
and it's very tough. The amount of work they used to do back in your early 20s, you're like, I used to go out, play hoops in the summertime, get back in shape, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, you get to your 30s and 40s, I'm like, it gets increasingly more difficult, you know?
Yeah, man.
What I'm trying to say is that blueprint is there, right? And we need to get, and for some people, they have it in reverse.
Mm,
In their subconscious mind, they have a dad bod. That's what it
right.
is. It's a beer
Right.
belly guy. It doesn't matter. For 9 months of the year, they go and work out at the gym. They work hard, making working with coach.
Mm,
So in the summer months, it's like I'm at the beach. I'm taking great photos, get them Instagram and things. Once summertime is over, they will revert
yeah.
back to
Yeah.
that dad bod. So what do
Yeah.
we got to do? We have to really think about these different verticals that we have, right? We have one vertical for health, another vertical for finances, another vertical for relationships. All these are blueprints.
Mm,
So some people they win the lottery, right? It's like, oh, you won the lottery, congratulations. But they go broke. Or you take somebody out of the hood, they become an NFL star,
Right,
making
right.
millions and millions of dollars. And you've seen this. I mean, you work with professional athletes, man. I mean, you've probably seen this so many times. You're like,
Mm.
it's a broken record out here. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
So we just need to learn and find some tools that can really reshape the subconscious mind. I'm very excited. And I'm like, targeting this. I went to this event, and this event led me to another book. This event led me to some chat GPT prompts, you know what I'm saying? And then
Mm.
chat GPT started to pull all this information. I'm like, okay, now the dots are connecting.
Right, right, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
we're not going to play around with this. It's like, it's either I do this or we're going to have the same type of results. So sometimes maybe the universe is withholding you from certain results because he wants you to progress. You want to go from strength to strength to strength to strength. Instead of saying, whereas before, me, homeboy, I was one step forward, two steps back. Kind of like
yeah,
a weight loss rebound. I lose 2 pounds and gain it all back and then some. We don't want
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
setting that blueprint. I love what Dorian mentioned about, hey, successful people, they expect that success through and through.
Yeah,
They have no question in their mind. You walk into the room, the whole energy of the room shifts
yeah,
because what your thoughts before you even speak, right?
mm,
And so many different other areas where we can make those adjustments and watch the world start to reflect this inner
right.
world. As within, so without.
Yes,
Can somebody give me an amen out
yeah,
here?
yeah, man. Yeah, man. And I think it's, it's, I mean, a lot of people, all right, for me, it's the training of the subconscious mind. After you come to these realizations through your shadow work or whatever things you need to fix,
Hmm.
then it's a training.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not like, it's never, at least for my own personal, it's never like, wow, I have this epiphany realization about myself, like, oh man, that's what was missing or something, and then automatically it changes, you
mm,
know. Some
hmm,
things do, some
mm,
things do. I not gonna lie, that also
mm,
happens, where the
mm,
realization of something
mm,
immediately
mm,
affects the change.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
but there are other things where, because maybe they could be based in trauma, maybe because of all the information that we take in every day,
Correct.
right? We're constantly being bombarded with
Hmm.
programming, right?
Hmm.
And we have been most of our lives,
Yes, we
where
have.
you have to train your subconscious mind
Mm,
to think in the other way.
mm, mm,
So I give
mm,
you a very simple example, which my mother told me when I was very young.
hmm,
And
hmm.
sometimes when mommy tell you something, it's like, ah, okay, mommy, yeah, I got it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But later in life, it come back and slap you in the
Oh,
back of your head,
absolutely.
like,
We all
oh,
have
that's what she
family
was. Yeah, that's
traditions
what.
that get passed down.
Yeah, man, that's what she was talking about.
Hmm.
And it's it's funny because sometimes those things that your mother or your parents or someone might have said to you in a former time
Hmm.
will come back to you through the mouths of somebody else.
That's right.
So to give you an example, I'm a coach. I wear track pants. I wear training shirts. Like
That's right.
90% of my wardrobe is like sportswear. You know
Adidas.
what I mean? Yeah, and I'm like, everywhere I go, it's sportswear. It's sportswear. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
And
it's a great
every
look on you, and you're in great
yeah,
shape, y'all.
and I mean, my mother used to tell me like, hey, when you go somewhere, if you want people to respect you, then
Mm,
you need to dress the part.
mm, mm,
You're
mm,
going to talk to these people. You're going to ask them for a walk or for some business or something. You need to dress the part, right?
mm, mm.
I'm head coach, man. I already dressed the part. Couple days, I got the job, and then, bro, I'm on the field. I don't need to wear, like, why I need to dress the part? I'm the coach. You know what I mean?
That's your part. You're
Yeah,
supposed to be wearing
exactly.
track
I'm
shorts,
I'm
like.
in the role. I'm gonna wear this. You guys got to deal with it, and that's it. You
What
know
does
what I
she
mean?
want?
Like,
She wants like a three-piece suit.
no, well, this is where like I do have some nice
Mm-hmm.
clothes,
Mm-hmm.
and on my off days, which I never really used to enjoy doing, like I had nice clothes in my wardrobe that I didn't wear for years. But again, wifey had to, you know, bring it up and be like, hey, you should dress nicely. My wife is French, so she dressed nice all the time.
That's right.
And she has a great fashion
She
sense.
she does.
So yeah, so she's, so she don't want to be walking around with no, nasty dressing man. So I can
Somebody
understand.
say, "You let your husband
Yeah,
out of the house with that
yeah.
clothes
But
on
yeah,
in that."
yeah. And again, she's right. So I tried it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, let me wear some nice clothes and let me take it on. And yeah, my mother said that also. And yeah, it's okay. But man, when I do that and I walk in a room,
Mm.
it's like my internal power doubled by 10.
Oh wow. Wow. That's a
And
great
so,
epiphany.
and so I was like, well, wait a minute. Actually, I feel good in these clothes. Actually, I
Mm.
feel like, I feel my worth in these clothes. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel my worth when, when I'm looking good and I'm feeling nice, and you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
sit down in a cafe to have something and I'm dressed nice, and you know what I mean? And people
Mm-hmm.
look at you differently. People come to you differently,
Deion
you know?
Sanders said the same thing.
Yeah,
He says, "When you look good, you feel
yeah,
good. When you
yeah,
feel good, you play good. And
exactly.
when you play good, they pay good."
Exactly. Exactly. And
So people used to mock him and be like, "Why Dion be wearing all this? Get them gold chains." Now he's getting all his sons to do the same thing too, right? But there's a reason that he does it. It's like, listen, you got to have that good positive energy, right?
yeah, man.
And if that gold chain is gonna help you play that role, put the gold chain on. That's all he's saying.
Yeah, and this is like, going back to the training. This is a training for your mind.
Mm, mm,
I don't have a lot of expensive clothes, you
mm-hmm.
know, but I have some good looking clothes that look good on me.
That's
And
right.
when I sit down in these clothes, or I go somewhere, I go to a meeting, or I talk to people in these clothes, I feel good. I feel my value, and I'm training my subconscious mind
Ah,
through the
that's right.
through the physical realm. I'm training my subconscious mind. When I
Mm,
look in the mirror, when I see people, how people look at me in those clothes,
mm-hmm.
I'm remembering the information I'm taking
Mm,
in.
mm, mm.
And that
That's a great lesson right
information I'm
there.
I'm taking in is telling me you have value, you have worth.
Mm,
You're
mm.
not a $10,000 man, you're $1 million man.
That's right.
So don't go into this meeting and ask for 10,000. Go into the meeting and ask for 1 million,
That's right.
because I'm worth that.
Mm,
You see? So in order to break our programming and in order to retrain the subconscious mind, we can use some little tricks like this.
yeah, it's not as it's both, right? It's not just always, oh, I gotta be meditating an hour at a time. You can use very practical tools and be
Yes.
like, you kind of anchor yourself to a particular feeling, right? Because
Yeah.
going back to Dorian, I think the successful people that carry that feeling of positive expectancy, and now when you're putting on maybe like a nice suit, something that looks really good on you,
Mm.
anywhere that you go, you might get a couple more looks, right? And somebody told me recently there is power in eyes, right? So why did the dark occult always want to catch your attention?
Yeah.
Because you got photons coming out of here, right?
Yep. Yep.
So when people look at you, you dress nice, right? They're giving their energy towards you. That
Yep.
kind of, and it also gives you a great, overall energy. So you kind of collect energy,
Yeah.
right? Attention is the economy. That's what it
Exactly.
is.
Exactly. And if you can't master your own attention, how do you want to master the attention of others?
Mm,
If you can't master your own mind, how you want to capture the mind of others.
Mm.
Players follow me because I believe what I say, because not because I think it's true, because I know it's true. When
Mm.
I tell you we're gonna play 4-4-2 and win, I don't doubt it. It's not I
Mm.
don't know we're gonna win. I know this is gonna work, and I know we're gonna win because I already did my homework. It's not a guess.
Mm.
Because if I can't do that, if I can't do that, and then convey that to my team,
Right.
they're not gonna believe me.
That's right. The coach has a huge effect on the performance of
Right?
their own players, right? This, it's actually interesting because I don't think people understand how much of that connection there is that the faith that you have as a coach, the faith that you have in your own players, right?
Yeah.
That plays such a tremendous role to the actual outcome of the game.
Yes.
Because most people say, oh, it's just coach. He's not even on the field, right?
Yes.
But he's doing all this other stuff, and you're on the court basketball for 40 minutes, but it's the whole week of preparation.
Yeah. Yeah. This is this is what people don't understand is 90% of my job as a head coach is not done on the field.
Mm, mm-hmm,
It's not done on the field. When I think about how I'm gonna run this team or run whatever,
mm-hmm,
it takes a lot of quote unquote shadow work. There's a lot of meditation going into that. There's a lot of reading going into that. There's a lot of thinking, philosophical ideas going into that. There's a
mm,
lot of finding out what other people did to get a certain result.
mm,
This all contribute. What you see me do on the field or what you see happen in a game, that's the flowers of the tree. That's not the
mm,
seed of the tree.
mm,
That's the
mm.
fruit. That's the
Do,
fruit.
do you see yourself like a military strategist when you're as a coach? Because you study like Napoleon, you study other military strategists, kind of like implement what they do, and then kind of see how you can use the same type of strategies on the football field.
Um, I'm not really. I know there are coaches that do this. I know
Hmm.
maybe I think that maybe the Lakers coach was it. I read
Phil
something like
Jackson.
right, Phil Jackson had read a lot like The Art of War and stuff like this.
Hmm.
Also Alex Ferguson
Mm.
does that.
Oh yeah, that's one of your favorite. That's one of your favorite
Yeah,
coaches,
yeah, yeah. He's
right?
one of my because he liked to throw shoes, but yeah, but but no, um, yeah, I do take some stuff. I mean, I've read The Art of War, and I do take some military stuff in there,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I'm more of a philosopher style
Mm,
coach.
mm,
Like
yeah.
I take in ideas,
Mm,
and I think I will take even I've even taken shadow work, and I've thought to myself like, okay, you know what? I'm doing this shadow work, and this shadow work works for me, and
mm-hmm.
these players, I need to shift their mentality, you
Mm,
know,
mm.
and imagine if all of these players were doing their shadow work
Oh my
and
God.
they were all honest with themselves. And
Mm,
then, so I project situations like that. And then I say, man, if I had a team of all guys who were completely honest and doing their shadow work, well, management would be a breeze, first of all, because it'd be like, look, I wouldn't even need to show you any tape. They just come back and be like, coach, I should have gone left. I went right. I hit
right.
the post. I should have passed it. You know what I
I
mean?
should have passed. I should have passed.
Yeah. And I'm like,
You
so
know, it wasn't
management,
the right place, the right time. You know,
yeah.
we
So
talked about this,
you
and
see,
then I
so
was out on the field.
so so management would be a breeze.
Hmm.
Second of all, I get much better performance from them.
Yeah.
And third of all, they come out of this as much better people. And
Right. Right.
then I would have a massive influence. They would have a massive influence on the
Oh
people
yeah.
who are around them. That
That's right.
would bring more fans to the
Oh,
field. That
oh
would
yeah. Because they would
bring
just be
more.
winning. They would
That
just
would
be winning all the
bring
time.
more sponsors here.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I go that deep.
Mm. Mm.
You know the
Well, thankfully, you kind of like anchor it all, right? So you are doing the work. You're doing like the spiritual work So you carry this vibration, right? That kind of lifts up
Yeah.
the team. That when you go into that place, even though they're not, because they're young kids, they're not, I don't want to do no meditation. It's all about, getting my muscles right. Just give me a
Yeah.
foam roller. I'll be good. But it's all this other stuff you're doing it behind the scenes. But
Yeah.
because you're doing it, right? Even though they don't know about it, right? But it's the whole projection of that energy that gets, because everything is a permeable membrane. The more I think it's like spiritually, everything's a permeable membrane. If you're around 5 millionaires, you're gonna be the six.
Yeah.
You're around 5 losers, you're gonna be the six. So, but just having that depth, um, really, I think it's gonna instill something. You know, they're gonna think back at these times, and then that's gonna open the door for them to do those shadow work, to do those meditations, even though right now, not on the top of their list.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this not this is not easy work we're talking about. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? This is work. This is probably the hardest work you're gonna do in your life, but
It
it's
is.
probably the most valuable.
It
You know,
is.
and it's not until you do this work, when you talk about power, it's not until
Hmm.
you do this work that you will, in my thinking, really start to achieve true power.
You know, there's a topic that's been bringing up to me, and I want to ask your opinion on this because I know it's super important, and I know you have a very, very deep understanding of it. The key word is bloodline.
Yes.
Bloodline, okay? And most people right now in the West, they've been trained this FOMO, fear of missing out. You only live once.
Mm,
That kind of an idea, right? They don't think about legacy, they don't think about bloodline, right? And that's
right.
what the dark occult, they want to train you in that way of thinking. Now, bloodline, you have a lot of blessings, but you may also have burdens that have been passed down,
Yeah.
right? So these things I've been diving deep into, but I just wanted to take your take. When I say the word bloodline, what does that mean to you? The significance of it, and how do you approach this topic?
Bloodline. Well, for me, I mean, if we don't talk about, okay, I mean, well, if we don't talk about the dark occult, and we talk about, I mean, when you say the word bloodline, that in me it kind of triggers the talk about the dark occult,
Mm,
right? But
mm-hmm,
it also, I would change the word for my own personal, what it brings up in me, which is about progeny.
mm, mm,
And I think that we think in too short of timelines.
That's right. That's
You
by
know,
design.
yes, we've been trained to think, when people say you only live once, well, is that
Is that
really
really
true?
true? Is that
You know what I
really true?
mean? Yeah, is that really
Dude,
true? I
Coach
mean, if
got
you,
books, y'all. You got to go to his
yeah,
library. He's got books.
if you go and you read, sacred texts from almost every culture, then
Mm-hmm.
you could maybe say that's probably not true.
Mm,
You
that's
know, and if that
right.
is not true, then it means, okay, maybe you don't live once, and then that means that what you do in this lifetime has an effect, maybe to you and others
Mm-hmm.
later on.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
What if you
like,
get spin back in the same family
exactly,
line,
and
right?
then it turns back into um, natural law. It turns back into how you are educating yourself, your
Mm-hmm.
people around you,
Mm-hmm.
your children, and what do you want to last longer than yourself.
Mm.
you know and Rome was not built in a day. uh
That's right.
a year for God is 1,000 years. There are all these sayings from different cultures, and I think that when you talk about progeny and bloodlines, it makes your life and your decisions right now vitally important.
That's right.
Vitally important. The knowledge you're taking in right now, the actions you are taking right now in your lifetime will echo over the eons,
Mm.
will echo into the ages,
Mm.
you know? And even today, I was talking to my son, and we were talking about exactly
Mm.
this. and I tell him, you know, if we don't get this right now, if we don't fix this problem right now, if we are not disciplined enough, if we are not diligent enough in our own work for ourselves, in diligent about making correct decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and I bring up to him like, look, I made a bad decision here. This was a wrong decision. I can see where my wrong decision, 10 years ago is affecting me now.
Mm-hmm.
And you as a youth, you cannot make that same wrong decision, because
Dude,
I'm
that's
telling you,
huge.
I'm showing you in real time where my wrong decision is now affecting me 20 years later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I tell you these things as my son, is because I understand that after I'm gone, you will pick up this.
Mm. That's right.
You will, everything I do now, same way my mother tell me, everything that I have done in this, whatever, will
Mm-hmm.
be for you later.
That's right.
And we think about this, many people think about this in terms of material,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, we forget that what our parents and the people around us pass on to us
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time is knowledge.
Absolutely.
And this is much more powerful than material.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding and knowledge is much more powerful than material.
Especially even relatives we no longer have with us, but their knowledge is passed down, right?
Exactly.
It's almost, I have to believe that, I chose this life experience and I had it in such a way that I will pick up these lessons. You have to think like your ancestors are counting on you to kind of set things right because they may come back into the same tree again,
Yeah.
right? Then how do you lay the board? Or what is the board going to look like? And but what the darker call is going to train everybody else because they're focused on bloodline. They're focused on,
Yeah.
like you said, project. You're thinking about generational wealth, not just the wealth part, but their internal blueprint, their subconscious mind programming. They know, hey, over here we're going to occult information, right?
Yeah.
And get everybody else to go to school and become really good slaves. And that's the system they have designed for the masses.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have to play their game, but I'm just saying we need to have the kind of mentality where it can't be a short term, right? We have to think about, okay, you have a son's going to have kids in the future. What are their principles? What are their North Star principles going forward, right? And that's going to set them up for success. And you got to create it in such a way. It's not like I'm not forcing you to get this done, right? It's almost like you have to entice them in such a way where they want to abide by a certain set of principles that will take them out from whatever tough situation they're
Right.
in. So
And
that could be in the health, finances, relation. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yes, sorry to cut you, man. But and again, that goes back to what we were saying about action. This is
Mm-hmm.
in the action, right? I don't eat meat. I choose to eat a certain way. Why? Because X, Y, Z. I show that
Mm-hmm.
to my son or the people I'm around every day.
Mm-hmm.
I go to I go to training with a carrot in my hand, and my team wonder why I'm eating this raw carrot in my hand,
Mm.
and then I have to give them an answer. Coach, did
Right.
it turn into a rabbit or what? And I'm like, no, man, listen, I'm ital. I don't eat no meat. I don't eat no animal thing. And right now I'm eating mostly raw, and it did this. They see my action. They ask me the question. I tell them, but they see my action, and that
Mm.
influenced them.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we have the knowledge and the understanding from our ancestors passed down to us. It's inside of us. It's instinctive,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes out in certain ways. And then our actions now is what shows people the change.
Mm-hmm.
When they can see the change,
Yeah, they
when they
have to see it.
when they can see the change, then the ones who want it will ask the question, well, why?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the change begins, because only people who seek will really get the change.
Seek and you shall find.
Yeah, seek and ye shall find. You see? So, how do you create the desire to change? Change yourself.
That's right. You have to change
Change
yourself.
yourself. Change yourself, and then let people see the change. And
Mm-hmm.
just a quick thing, because you mentioned ancestors, and that was in the talk with my son today as well.
Mm-hmm.
I found it really interesting. This might be something that you could do, or people, whoever might see this, could do,
Mm-hmm.
is check into your ancestors and who they were.
Yeah,
Check in,
absolutely.
check into your ancestors and who they were and what they did, and you know, find out as much as you can. Like I found in my own search that
Mm-hmm.
the ancestors that I could find of mine were people who were must have had very much the same attributes as I do.
Mm-hmm.
They were in positions where they had to do a similar kind of work to what I did, what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing,
The
you know?
philosophical work, the
Yeah,
deep inner work, you know.
and decision making work, and
Mm-hmm.
you know this kind of thing, and figuring out stuff and advising, and
Right.
guiding people.
Yeah, you're kind of like a power of attorney, conciliary. If I want to go for advice, like really, really just cut through advice, I
Yeah,
probably just call you, because
yeah,
you've been through so much. Y'all, you guys have no idea, that the challenges coach had to go through. I don't even know where to start, but every step of the way, he handled it with such grace. Because I would put myself in your shoes. I would go back home. I'm like, yo, I don't know
yeah,
how he do it, y'all. That's all I gotta say. I was like, I don't know. And then he was
yeah.
prepared, y'all. He was prepared. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, man, God don't put you into anything that you can't handle. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Put you into the He put you into the situations to get the learning that you need.
mm,
You know,
mm,
so when you take this approach, then yes, things can be disappointing, things can be hard. It can be hard emotionally, physically, financially, all of this stuff. But you have to remember, Jah didn't put you there without a reason. You know,
mm, mm,
and so when you get to that point, what what are you gonna do? Stop? No, you can't stop. You have to keep working. You have to keep going. You have to keep figuring out, and
hmm.
you have to understand this is just another problem to learn from.
That's right. We
So
should be grateful for these lessons. The more I think about it, I was at this conference and it definitely taught a lot about ancestry, the
yeah,
energetic patterns that gets passed down. Some are very beneficial and other ones they're there so you can course correct them.
yeah,
Some people they say, well, the reason why I have diabetes or some type of chronic disease is a genetic predisposition. That is
mm,
the dark occult training. They're going to
yeah,
tell you you can't come out of it. You're going to have this chronic disease. Get on insulin for the rest of your life. If you can't do it, you're going to be on dialysis for your kidneys. What I'm
oh,
trying to say is maybe there are certain eating patterns that are not helpful for us generationally, and that's gotten passed down through the generations.
mm,
And because we've been set on this bad eating pattern, maybe we're just drinking a whole bunch of Coke, eating a whole bunch of pasta, and that's what developed insulin deficiencies, or your body doesn't have enough, ammunition to bring back down that blood sugar.
yeah,
So I think having that insight, no, as you said, it's important for us to go up the family tree. And if you run the numbers, because it doubles up every
yeah,
single generation, that number goes up crazy. It's go up 20. I invite anybody on this call Go up 30, go up 40 generations. You'll be shocked at how many people are up there.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's mad. It's mad. It's and then
I'm
you
like, where do these people come from?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're like, you're somehow related to the whole of Taiwan. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
You can't count. You cannot count where these. It's absolutely tremendous. You know.
yeah. And I mean, that's the. It's amazing, man. I mean, it's everything as you talk about, like people feeling like they can't heal or they can't fix stuff, man. Everything
Hmm.
in this world fixes itself.
That's right.
Everything in this world is made to have the ability to auto correct or heal or
Oh yeah.
or change direction. Like, it's
It's
plants do it,
recycles.
animals do it,
Everything
societies
recycles.
do it, empires do it. Like, it's, man, that's just a law.
It
You know
is.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a
There's a
law.
law. It's called thermo.
Yeah,
Law of conservation of energy.
exactly.
Energy
So
cannot be destroyed, but transformed from one form to another. Right.
so
So you're walking around these beautiful trees. At some point, those leaves are going to drop, but
yeah,
they're going to get recycled. Right?
right,
They're gonna
right.
come back into the dirt, and everything everything. Yeah, everything like you say, everything fixes itself if you allow nature to do its work.
Yeah.
So,
And again, if you can keep these parasites out of your head, and keep them out of your head, and try to protect your mind and your thinking, and be open to receive, you know,
hmm
different thinking, different information, and what you've been programmed to think. Man, we we are bound. We are limitless. Not, I wouldn't say limitless, but we are unbelievable beings, man.
we are.
You know, this 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 system is perfect, bro.
Mm.
It's
hmm
unbelievable.
hmm
It's unbelievable. The only thing we should be doing is walk around saying thank you. That's the only thing we should be doing. You know what I mean? We
That's
shouldn't be
right.
worrying about our health and worrying about money and worrying about. We should just be walking around saying thank you.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Just chill. You know.
Yeah. I mean, this is something even a few friends of mine who I really respect have told me. Like, they were saying human beings are built to worship.
Mm.
Basically, we should be here saying thank you.
Mm.
You know, and even this, when we talk about training the subconscious mind, talk about gratitude, talk about this is also a training. This is a training to
Mm-hmm.
do what? Go back to your original self,
Mm.
before your programmed self, before you didn't know who you were,
Mm.
right? Before you didn't know your value,
Mm.
before you didn't know that, you know what, I should go out to a restaurant and spend 1,000 in tea on a dinner for myself,
That's right.
or I should wear a nice pair of pants.
Mm.
I don't need to be excessive about it, you know. Hold on. Come here. Yeah, Naya, there's some. Come. Sit. Good girl. There's a firecracker. All right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. She
No
heard a
worries. No
fire.
worries.
She heard a firecracker. She was getting ready to boom. So yeah. So I mean, all of these things come together. All of these things we're talking about, they all are pieces of the puzzle. They fit together, and then you have this amazing picture.
Mm.
This amazing picture, and sometimes I'm not saying, we don't get sad, we don't get depressed, we don't sometimes feel bad. I'm not saying we don't have that, but
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the whole picture, wow, you know
Mm.
thank you. Wow, what an experience. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What an experience.
You have a very deep cognition of it. I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna start the process because it is true. I need to. appreciate my environment a lot more. But at a
Yeah.
deeper level, you get really, and that is a state that we should be in. It's a particular energetic state because most of our lives we've been trained to you have to conflict, you have to fight, you have to
Right.
just the words you have to, whatever, you know. And
Yeah.
then on the other side of the thing is no, you don't have to do any of that and be okay.
Yeah. It's. I mean, man, I grew up with that mentality as well. Like, it's a fight. You know, you gotta fight for what you want. You gotta fight to get what you want. This and this, and yes, there's times when things are difficult and you have to fight yourself and you have to push through. And sometimes you might have conflict with others, but man, the the golden key,
Hmm.
the golden key is, at least as what I can see right now, and from my own experience, is that you don't really have to fight.
Mm. It actually takes you farther away from the goal, right? If I have that conflict mentality, then is I'm not in flow. It takes you
Yeah,
out of the flow state.
yeah. Like, it's like we talked about someone going into the room. Like, you know, I can't see Jesus walking into a room,
Hmm.
and I can see him fighting, but I can't see him fighting in the way like we.
Uh-oh. Coach, you still there? I think I lost you. Hold on a second. All right, that was an amazing conversation. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Uh, it might be internet or battery situation because we were on the call for quite some time. But I want you guys to follow Coach. So it's Coach Lazarus Harley. So CoachLazarusHarley. He is a professional football coach. He's been doing it for many, many years here in Taiwan. Very few people I have a lot of respect for. He's definitely one of them. Also, his wife. If you see me with different types of soaps, I used to give out soaps for my close friends. His wife makes those soaps. So another person you want to look up is Dorian Green. Dorian Green. All right. So you have Handle Dorian. It's by Dorian Greens. By Dorian Greens. So you guys want to look that up and you got to follow her, get the soaps. That'll be very helpful for y'all. But y'all have an amazing rest of your week and I'll talk